Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fuck It podcast. This is episode number 7, and we are looking to show people if you can change your mind, you can change your life. I have a special guest with me today, Austin Rutherford. I met Austin back in 2017, I think it was. We were in a Mark Evans, shout out to Mark Evans, a mastermind of his. And, it was literally, first day we just, connected and, have stayed in touch a little bit since. And have just really enjoyed seeing Austin grow and rise to the level that he is at, because he definitely comes from humble beginnings, and it was not an easy start for him. So welcome, Austin. Tell the audience just a little bit more about yourself and your journey to get where you're at now.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's great to be here. I didn't know it was 7 years ago, 6 years ago. That's crazy. That
Yeah, it
when
is
we
crazy.
connected. But no, I'm excited. So little kind of backstory on myself. My original dream was to go to the NBA. I was a baller back in the day. I grew up in Ohio. I went to Arizona prep school out there to play basketball for a year to pursue my dreams, get my scholarship into basketball. And while I was out there, it got to the point where I hated touching the rock, and basketball was my life leading up to that. I would work out 2-3 times a day. I ate, drank, slept, everything basketball. And, I kind of got to a dark place in life because that's what I knew, and I hated doing it. So it was a really weird position for me. And I ended up with a book called Think and Grow Rich in my hands. That opened up my mind to the possibilities. Then I was on my rooftop journaling. I saw a 7-unit apartment building, realized that whoever owned that building was making money. So that's kind of my intro into real estate. So from there, just learned as much as I could. Bought my first duplex when I was 20 years old, flipped my first house at 22 years old, made $100,000 in profit on that first deal, reinvested everything back into the business. And over the last 8 years, flipped a couple hundred houses, built a bunch of new construction houses, own about $23 million in real estate today. And all that's been through using other people's money. So still very active in the real estate business, and then started building a personal brand a few years ago as well. And that's been life-changing too. So it's been a fun ride over the last 8-9 years.
Nice, yeah, and it's definitely been, I've loved watching your journey. You just touched on how, your first dream was to play ball, and, you kind of got, once you kind of had to come to that realization that, hey, wasn't going to work, you kind of felt like depressed and down. So just talk about that like a little bit more, like how was that transition from, going, giving up on something, that was your passion, your number one dream, and what was the transition like from going from there into, real estate and what your current passions are now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was a dark place. For me, I feel like everybody goes through that dark point in life. For me, it was like losing out on that dream. But for anybody, it could be losing a job, having a breakup with their girlfriend or their wife or their fiance, whatever it is, right? Everybody is in a dark point at some point in life. It's just how long do people stay there, right? And for me, it was very uncomfortable. I had no idea what to do. I was in Arizona playing, but I was still in the middle of the season and I hated it. But I didn't even like the games anymore. The games was the fun part, and I didn't even like balling. And I was second in scoring, first in rebounds, first in points, first in steals, first in assists. So I was balling, and I just started hating the game. So I went back to kind of what I knew, which was hustling and making money. Growing up, I would cut grass, shovel driveways, make Buckeye necklaces, flip candy in high school, buy it in bulk and break it out and sell it. So I went back to making money. So I picked up a valet job while I was in Arizona, still playing basketball. And just started valeting to start making a little bit of money. And I wish for the life of me, I knew who gave me the book, Think and Grow Rich. I don't know who gave it to me, but that book single-handedly changed my life. I read it, opened up my mind to the possibilities, and I just started journaling. It talks a lot about journaling. So that's what I still do it today. If you don't journal, I highly recommend everybody. I spent 30 minutes a day journaling back then, and I was just sitting on my rooftop, just sitting there thinking about whatever came to my mind. And then that's when that looking over down the way, a couple streets over, there was that 7-unit apartment building that I saw, and it just clicked. It was like, if one person owns it and 7 people are paying him, like, he's got to be doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's what got me hooked on real estate.
It's funny because I feel like almost every entrepreneur or people that are in real estate is like one of 2 books that kind of makes, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Think and Grow Rich.
Yep, 100%.
And I remember you just kind of sharing this like within the mastermind like years ago. But you didn't really have any money when you were getting started, and you needed money. So, just talk about what that journey was like, when you were first getting started in real estate and just some of the struggles that you dealt with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I kind of say like I had two starts in real estate. One was a rental property, and then one was a flip. So I was in Arizona playing basketball, fell in love with the idea of real estate, started ordering like, $50 ebooks. It's back in the day when they like actually used to mail you things. So like I don't know, I spent maybe $500, $600, $700 at the time just trying to get, as much information as possible. And then I realized what passive residual income truly was. It was making money continuously without working. I was like, sounds good to me. Let's go down that route. And so I just came, fell in love with real estate, with passive residual income. So I ended up moving back to Ohio because that's where I'm from. It's what I know. I transferred my valet job back to Ohio, and just started looking at deals all day, every day, just running numbers, figuring out what PITI is, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, created a spreadsheet for it, figuring out what the rent in the market was, and just started evaluating, a ton of rental properties. And ended up coming across not the first, but many deals that I've looked at into it. But the first deal that I bought, which was a duplex, it was like a $200,000 purchase. I rented for about $1,300 a side. My mortgage payment was like $1,400-$1,500. So I was making about $1,000 a month. And at the time, I had about $30,000 saved to my name from the cutting grass, the shoveling driveways, the flipping candy, making Buckeye necklaces. So I used that just as a traditional down payment, and bought the property just as a rental property. I didn't know about house hacking. I didn't know about the Burr method. I didn't know about private money. I didn't know about any of those things. Like all I knew was save money, put it as a down payment, buy a rental property.
And what year was this about?
December 13 or 14.
Okay.
And I bought it and I was like, yo, I'm 20. I just bought a house. I'm making $1,000 a month. Like this is
You're
I'm living
balling.
life.
Yeah.
And then I realized it took me 20 years to save 30 grand to buy one rental property. I was like, all right, well, if I want to buy more rentals, I need to figure out how to make money faster. And my realtor at the time made like $7,000-$8,000 in commission. And I was like, all right, like I'm gonna get my real estate license. So I went in, I did the crash course. It was I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. Just did it as quickly as possible. Got my real estate license. Joined HER Realtors. Started showing people houses. Sold 2 houses. Made like $10,000. And I hated it. I hated driving around showing people houses. It's wealth is through ownership, right? And that's something that's really set into me. So I'm giving other people the wealth because they're the ones buying the deals. Like I wanted to be on that side. And one morning, driving to work, valeting cars still, driving to work, and a radio ad pops up. It was like, if you want to get rich flipping houses, come to this free seminar tomorrow night. I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm going to be there. And I went to the free seminar. It was like a 3-hour class. At the end of that, they're like, if you really want to know real estate, come to this 3-day seminar. It's $200. I was like, bet, $200. I'm in. I was the first one to the back of the room. I was excited. I'm like, man, I'm going to learn all the game and go get rich. And then at the 3-day seminar, day 2, they pitched their coaching program.
The
and
guru upsell.
100%. And they're like, hey, like, we've given you all this information. We're going to give you more tomorrow. But if you really want to know the ins and outs, it's $25,000. You got to pay it tomorrow. I was like, oh gosh, I don't got 25 grand. I just put all my money into this house that I just bought. And, I feel like there's a few times in everybody's life where opportunity comes across, and very, very, very few people take advantage of that. It's that heartstring pull where you feel like you're missing out on something. And most people take it into fear and then pass on it. That was my moment. I felt like that was the opportunity of a lifetime, and something was pulling me into that. And I was broke though. So I went home that night. Remember, day 2, day 3, you have to have the money. I went home that night and I went to AmericanExpress.com and told them I made $100,000 a year and had an 800 credit score. And they gave me a $15,000 line of credit. I was like, bet, I'm more than halfway there. Like I'm winning. And I didn't have the other 10. So I called, I talked with everybody I knew to try to raise the other $10,000 for somebody to, go in with me or to partner with me or blend me or whatever to come up with the $25,000. Everybody said no. It's too good to be true. If it was that easy, everybody would do it. It can't be that simple to make money flipping houses. all these things you always hear from
Yeah,
anybody.
that is literally the typical talk that you will hear from literally everyone around you that has never even attempted to do something that you're trying to do.
100%. They try to bring you down because that's
Yep,
their fears taught sitting in.
exactly.
And I was hurt. And at the time, I was still living with my parents. And I felt like I was missing out on that opportunity of a lifetime. And it was like 1, 2 a.m. in the morning. And I legit crawled under my parents' dining room table in the house and just started crying because I felt like I was missing out on the opportunity of a lifetime. And I was more than crying. I guess I was weeping because my parents woke up from me crying and walked down the stairs. And you got to remember leading up to this, right? You know, I was 100% dedicated to basketball. I worked out 3 times a day. I was all in. I had 30 grand saved at the age of 20 years old. I bought my house at 20. So I did the right things leading up to like show I was serious about these things. And they saw me and they came down. They're like, man, like we can see like that you really want this. Like we confront the other 10,000 for you. And it was just this like, oh, all right, cool. But my mom had to come to day 3 to actually be sold. So me, my mom, my dad went to the 3rd day. And then at the end of it, I was like, let's do it. They're like, you know, I don't know. And long story short, we ended up joining the program, paid $25,000. I had 18 months, no interest. Thought I was going to get rich overnight. And it took me 16 months from that point to do my first deal in real estate.
Yeah, so let's like talk about that more because 16 months, you know, when you're really going after something is a long time, right? Because, you know, most of us, myself included, you know, it took me 18 months to kind of get consistent with wholesaling. But like I thought I was sure as shit, like I'm going to start killing it in like 30 to 60 days.
Yep.
And, you know, I remember talking to so many people at that time and like we're all got the same mindset, like, oh, we're going to fucking kill it. But you know, 99% of the people that I talked to around that time quit because it just didn't happen quick enough. So
Yep.
just talk about that. Like, you know, how were you feeling? You know, you said you thought that it was going to happen a lot quicker. So what was that like, the experience from paying 25 grand and then it taking 16 months to actually start doing something?
100%. It was, I knew I had 18 months, no interest. And on top of that, I had to pay my parents back. Right. So I was like, all right, I got time. But like you, I was like, I'm going to get rich. Like it's first month. I got it. Like I'm doing it. And I got into it. And you got to remember, I was working valet 50 to 60 hours a week. I was picking up other shifts so I could stack as much money as possible. And I grew up, you know, go to college, get a degree, get a job. So I promised my mother I'd get graduate college. So I was in college taking 15 credit hours as well. And I was trying to start my real estate business. So that's basically 3 full-time jobs at once, right? And I was doing it and I got in and I started. And this wasn't 16 months of like, you know, every month or two I'd go look at a house. Like, remember, I was a licensed realtor at the time. I was looking at houses every single day, making offers every single day. That's a long time, 16 months from actively doing the business to not having a deal, right? And it was a struggle, man. Like I was working 16, 18, 20-hour days. You know, I remember driving home from work one day, valet. It was 3 o'clock. I got off at 3, 7 to 3 shift, got off at 3, driving home, fell asleep at the wheel. I woke up because I hit the curb and I was on the sidewalk and there's a big light pole in front of me. Luckily, I woke up, swerved back on the street, drove home, finished writing my handwritten letters to sellers, trying to get them to sell me the house. Like that's just part of the grind, you know? And during that time too, I was 20, 21 at the time. All my friends were in college. All my friends were going to spring break. All my friends were going to vacation. They were going out and partying. They were going out and drinking. They were going out to dinner. And when they invited me to go to these things, I kept saying no. I was like, nah, I'm working. Nah, I'm working. Nah, I'm working. And they stopped inviting me to those things because I never went. Like, I can't knock them for that. Like, I always said no. But it hurt, you know, lost a lot of people. It was dark. Working for 16 months straight, being broke, spending every penny you make, putting it back into marketing to try and find your first deal. It was a rough journey. And 10 months into that, I got my first deal. I raised $250,000 of other people's money to fund that deal. 6 months from purchase to renovate and sell. So that's the 16-month process. Sold it 4 days after my 22nd birthday. Walked away with a $184,000 check, of which 107,000 of it was mine. Like true net.
And when was this? When did you sell that?
May 2015, May 29th, 2015, and made 100,000. and life-changing experience, but 100 grand doesn't really change your life. And I think the biggest takeaway with this, remember, I was grinding for 16 months doing nothing but working, and I made 100 grand at 22 years old. I didn't go on vacation. I didn't buy a pair of sneakers. I didn't go out to dinner. I didn't do anything. I paid off my debts and I reinvested every single penny back into the business. And I went back to valeting cars 50 to 60 hours a week. And I went back to college taking 15 credit hours after I had 6 figures in my bank account. And the reason for that is like, there was a part of me was like, was I lucky? Like everybody can get lucky at some point, right? One deal could be luck. So I did my next deal about 90 days later, made another $40,000 in profit. So I had about 150,000 net in about 90 days. I was like, all right, this ain't luck. This works. And I went to my mom. I was like, Ma, I'm never going to graduate. And she supported me from day one, loved my parents to death. They're like, I wouldn't expect anything different. Dropped out of college, went to work, quit valeting cars, and went all in on real estate at that point.
Yeah, and something that like just really stands out to me is just like the sacrifice, right? Like you were willing to do, and to me, this is literally the difference between those that make it and those that don't. Like you were willing to do whatever the fuck it took for you to succeed, right? And I'm sure you pretty much had the mindset like, hey, I'm like, it doesn't matter if it takes 16 months or 36 months. Like I'm gonna fucking just keep at it till it happens. And I think that most people don't really get that. Like not quitting is literally probably the biggest thing to that contributes to success. Like most people, like us, we had unrealistic expectations when we started, but the difference between people that succeed and don't is they just don't give up.
100%. You know that like meme picture where there's like two people like digging a hole to
3 feet from gold. Yep.
yeah.
3 feet
And
from
the one
gold.
guy's like there and stops, and then the other guy like gets there.
Yeah.
The cool thing about real estate, we're not like trying to land on Mars, right? That's like an if game.
Yeah, that's like rocket science. It's real estate ain't rocket science.
It's simple. Like real estate is a win game, not an if game. I promise you, real estate works as long as you do the work long enough. It will come to you. I 100% guarantee it. Most people just quit too soon.
Yeah, and no, 100%. And another thing that like really stuck out to me is like you played it really smart and somewhat safe, right? Like you made a 6-figure spread on your first flip, and then you went and continued to work 50 plus hours a week in your regular 9 to 5. You continue to go to school, and you've reinvested into the business. Like that was at that age, shit. Like I would not have probably made that fucking decision at that age. But just talk about that. Like, do you think that was like a huge, contributing factor to your success?
Yeah, absolutely. I see so many people nowadays, and I help some of them, and they're like, "Yo, I just did my first deal, made 30 grand," and I see them with a new car the next day. I'm like, what do you do? You just restarted. Like you just went from like zero to making it, and then you went back to zero. Like I don't know, like 100,000, does not change. I've said this before on social media, and I got a bunch of hate for it. It's like 100K doesn't change your life. People are like, "Oh, what are you talking about?" Da-da-da-da. I said, "Bro, you can spend 100 grand in a week, in a day. Like it's really not life altering, right? You can change it for a second." But I knew that like $100,000 does not change your life, period. 100,000 a month can change your life, right? So that was kind of the mindset. It was like, this doesn't do anything for me, right? So it was an easy decision for me to reinvest literally every penny back into the business.
So, you started out pretty much just flipping, it sounds like one house at a time. Just kind of talk about the journey from, how you build up. Like I know you've rehabbed and built a pretty significant number of houses. So just talk about that journey of, just starting with like a house at a time, and where you were able to scale that to over time.
Yeah, for sure. So, the first year was 0. The second year was like 2. The third year was like 7. Fourth year was like 20. And then at the peak, we did about 100 deals in 1 year. And that's everything between wholesaling, flipping, building new construction, and buying rental properties for that whole combined number. So throughout the journey, I was doing everything. I was the bookkeeper. I was the paper pusher. I was the general contractor. I was the material runner. I was the salesperson. I was the acquisition. I was doing everything. So I was never really able to scale because like every individual person has a cap to their income, and no matter what it is, somebody's cap might be 50K a year. Somebody's cap might be $1 million a year, but like you will cap out without help. And finally, mentor Mark Evans kept telling me to hire an assistant. And I couldn't fathom paying somebody, $30,000, $40,000 a year when I was only making, a couple hundred grand a year. Like, I was a 20, 30% of my income.
Yep.
And I was like, I can't do it. And he was like, hey, you're not paying somebody 30 grand. You're paying somebody 3 grand.
Yep.
Because if they don't like prove themselves in the first month, you're only out $3,000 and you move on to the next person. And that was like a light bulb for me. It was like, oh, like, I'm not risking 30, 40 grand. I'm risking 3. Like, I'm good with risking 3 grand. So essentially started building a team. So hired an assistant, then hired a project manager, then hired sales teams, closers, then hired junior acquisitions, closers, then hired dispositions managers. Just kind of continuously built the team. And, at the peak, like I said, we did about 100 deals in a year. We had an assistant, we had a transaction coordinator, we had 2 closers, we had 7 cold callers, and we had a dispositions and project manager, all in office in Columbus, Ohio at the time.
So it sounds like, we definitely had a similar journey in terms of, we doing it all, right? And I feel too often people start and they kind of want to delegate and hire out. And in my opinion, it's like, how are you going to, like, if you don't have experience doing each role, like, how are you going to know that somebody else is kind of doing it well, especially like in the beginning?
Yeah.
So is that like a similar, like, did you feel that you did it intentionally, kind of did everything to learn everything, or was it more just you didn't want to hire?
Both. I
A little bit
definitely
of
should have
both.
hired sooner. I feel like everybody always kind of goes back and says that after they start building a team. But I definitely knew what I was doing, and I think it helped me in the long run because, like, I was the one GCing, I was the project manager of these a lot of the projects before we ever hired a general contractor or a project manager. So, like, I knew the material. I knew how much they costed. I knew how much per square foot roofs were and flooring was. And I knew all these things. So when people would tell me, like, hey, we're fixing it this way, I'm like, don't you need to do X, Y, and Z? And they're like, oh, yeah, we do need to do that. Thank you. So, I think it's a blessing in disguise, like, when you do actually know it, to do it. Like, there's like a fine line there. Like, I would never spend the time to figure out how to hard code a website just to see if they know how they're doing it, right? Like, that's just my skill. I'm hiring it, I'm outsourcing it. But, like, the internal business, like understanding marketing, understanding sales, understanding acquisitions, understanding construction management, like, those are very integral parts of a real estate business. So I think you having at least a semi understanding of that is very important to understanding and knowing how to manage people as you continue to grow.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I always tell people, like, hey, like, I think it's good to kind of start and do a little bit of everything. That way you get a basic understanding of it. And then, once you do that, you just certainly like want to delegate it out because, again, like you said, like, if you're a one-man show, you're going to like limit your, what you can accomplish. And shit, like, I had the wrong mindset for too long, like, where it was like, oh, I'll just do it by myself, But you literally cannot like maximize your potential in business or life if you're going about it all by yourself.
100% agreed. 100%.
So you said that, at your peak, you did about 100 deals a year.
Mhm.
Where are you at this point, just in terms of deal flow? And, where, do you see your business over the next, 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So remember when I started out, I fell in love with the idea of passive residual income. And the problem was once I flipped that first house, made 100, flipped the second house, made 40, I got hooked on the chase for money. So at the beginning of my business, I was flipping or wholesaling or new constructing. I was active income like 90% of the time. And I was buying rentals like maybe 10% of the time. Because I got caught chasing what I thought looked cool on social media. You
Yep.
see these guys flashing cars, flashing checks, all these things. That the thing that a lot people drastically misunderstand is difference between gross income, net
Net,
income, net profits, profit
yep.
after taxes, like huge differences.
Yeah,
But all
vanity metrics people usually like to talk about.
100%. So, like, you see that, and like somebody flips a house, makes $100,000. They got 5 partners that made 20K each.
Yeah.
It's like really understand the number, but you see it on social media and you feel like you need to be doing that. So that's what I did. I was flipping a wholesale and building new construction as much as possible. I was like, hey, I want to make 100K in a month. I did it. I was like, all right, 200K in a month. I did it. 300K in a month. I did it. And then it's like at some point, actually at no point, that number will never stop. Like, I promise you, you will chase an endless number for the rest of your life. That's what I did for the first 5 years of my business. and bought very few rental properties, made, decent money, flipping a wholesale and active income, but realized I was on a hamster wheel of life. And I was on a phone call with one of my friends. We good guy. He was actually one of the groomsmen of my wedding, and we started real estate at the same time. And we was actually in the same realtor class. And at the same time, he started buying rental properties, like 90% rentals, 10% flips. I started 90% flips, 10% rentals. And early on, for the first few years, I had way more money than he did because I was just clipping stuff, making 20, 50, $80,000 a house. He was buying rental properties, making $100, $200 a month. So for the first few years, like, I thought I was balling. And then 5 years into the game, I was on the phone with him, just chopping it up, catching up with him. And I was like, yo, like, tell me what you got going on. He's like, yeah, I just did a refi on 30 of my 100+ houses. I was like, all right, what'd that look like? And he was all right. So I refinanced 30 of them, which is like 20% of his portfolio. Paid off 10 of them entirely. So 10 of them completely paid off. That's $1,000 a month per deal net. So that's 10,000 a month created out of thin air minimum. Re-leveraged the other 20, so $100, $200 a month net. So created $12,000 a month of true net passive income. And on top of that, he said, I pulled out $1 million tax free. I was like, what? Run that back?
Say that again.
Yeah. And he said it again. Again, different numbers. $1 million tax free is like making $1.4 million taxable, right? So very, like, you got to understand these numbers. I was like, huh? And he said it back, and I was like, I'm in the wrong game. The next day I went into my office. I said, guys, we're done flipping. We're keeping everything. And, that transition, now I keep 90, 95% of every deal that comes across my table as a rental property. And then I flip, if it doesn't cash flow, but it's still profitable, then I'll flip it, which is very few deals. So the business model literally inverted from where I started. And I got back to my why, which was the beginning, which was passive residual income, to start building wealth, for myself and my family. What that's why I love this. Like, wealth is through ownership. It finally clicked. The cash flow is cool. The active income's cool. You need that to survive and live on. But if you want to build real wealth and like have everlasting like cash for the rest of your life, the only way to do that is through ownership.
Yeah, it was definitely a big mistake that I made as well. I was like way too transactional, focus on collecting fees as opposed to, holding and, like you said, creating the wealth. So yeah, I think a lot of people, especially when you start out wholesaling and flipping, kind of make that mistake because you see like like you said, like, 20, 40, 50 plus $1,000 or 100 hours a month or whatever, $200 a month. And you're like, I'll take that 20, $30,000 check. But like, just the depreciation, the passive income, like there's so many benefits to holding.
And that's the disconnect. People see the $100, $200 a month, and that's what they see. But to break it down, so real estate, you make money. Rental properties, you make money 4 ways: cash flow, appreciation, depreciation, and mortgage buy down. So when I buy a rental property, I'll make $100, $200 a month, like true net profit, right? But every deal that I buy, I'll save anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 in taxes, because if you do cost segregation, speed up the depreciation, you're able to do that. So if I could have assigned it for $20,000, I already made 10 by keeping it. So it's not a $20,000 discrepancy, it's a $10,000 discrepancy. And every year that $200,000 asset will go up, usually at minimum 3%. So it'll go up $6,000 a year every year that I own it. So I save 10 grand in taxes, I'll make $6,000 in appreciation. So I'm at 16 and I could have made 20. Now it's a $4,000 price point negotiation that you got to have internally. So if you really understand like all the additional income streams off of the real estate, it makes that decision a lot easier because the margin's not as different as you could, as you may think it is.
Yeah, no, 100%. So just where do you see yourself and with your business in the next 5 to 10 years? I know that you have started really focusing on building the personal brand. You're still obviously doing real estate. Like, what are your goals and where do you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so two things: continue growing the brand, blow it up like crazy, and then also buy a lot more real estate, but bigger deals. Just like kind of starting out, the first deal is it's the whole unknown. It's like, oh, what happens when I get a deal? What happens when I buy it? How do I get it funded? I bought my first warehouse building I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago.
Congrats.
Completely new world, right? I had to learn triple net leases, had to learn like all this stuff. And I'm still going through it as we're talking. And I really, really like it. Just bought a 10 unit apartment complex last week. I'm negotiating a 60,000 square foot warehouse right now. Hopefully clip another 28 units. Apartment buildings. So I want to start buying bigger things, right? You know, I've done hundreds of deals, raised $30 million of money to do all these, you know, smaller single family type assets. It's like, why not go out there and do the bigger stuff with more zeros on it? So that's one goal for sure. And then the second goal is, like I said, continue to grow the personal brand. You know, people don't understand the power of a personal brand.
Yep.
If you really think about it, the single-handedly, the one thing that you can do to make the most amount of income is build a personal brand. And like, I have a personal brand, and sometimes I even forget that, right? All my deal flow comes from social media. A lot of my private money comes from social media. Two of my other businesses come entirely from social media. So it's like eyeballs is the new currency. The most valuable asset in the world today is influence. So the way to do that is by having a personal brand. So if you truly understood the actual power of doing this, people would do it a lot more often. But most people just have fear, you know, about what other people are going to say, or if they're going to look bad on camera. I don't even like the camera to this day.
Yeah.
I still hate it. Never liked it, but I understand the power of it. So it's like, if you understand it, you can get past that.
Yeah, same. Like it was something that I've been like trying to focus a lot more on probably in like the last 12 to 18 months. But yeah, like I'm an introvert. Like I'm not really like I was so fucking uncomfortable like starting to make the videos and get inside your head and shit. And then it was just like, I don't give a fuck, like whatever. And then now it's just like, you know, it's something you get comfortable with. But I think a lot of people were like uncomfortable with it in the beginning. But yeah, I couldn't agree more about the personal brand. And it's funny that you're transitioning more into like some like warehouses and stuff because like industrial is like really what I've primarily been focusing on.
Love it. I love it.
All right,
It's
we're
got
gonna
more zeros on it.
yeah. Like, listen, like I forget who told me this, but like they said, like with the bigger deals, like don't be scared of commas and zeros because that's like literally the biggest difference. Like it's a property that you know it's a property a person wants to sell. So if you've transacted in some real estate, you know, don't be scared of some commas and zeros.
100%. 100%.
All right, we're gonna get to the final four questions. So question number one. What book, movie, or experience fundamentally changed your perspective on life and why?
Two things, and we already touched on them, so I'm not going to go deep into them. But the first one was the book Think and Grow Rich. Changed my mind to the possibilities of making money outside of being like an athlete or a rapper. So that changed the what's the word, the trajectory of my life forever. And then second thing is that phone call from my buddy, you know, where it clicked that the whole wealth is through ownership thing. That changed the way I look at everything as well. So both of those had a crazy impact on my life.
Question number two. How do you define success?
Uh, That's a good question. True peace and time freedom. You know, when you can spend time with the people you love and you can spend money on the people you love to give them the experiences that they want without really having to like second guess, like, you know, spending the money. I think that's the definition of success for me.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more. That's a great answer. Similar to actually the answer that I had, like when I answered the question.
I love it.
Uh, if you could have a conversation with any historical figure, who would it be, and what would you ask them?
Um, so I was thinking about this, and I would say like Rockefeller. And that was the first one that came to my mind because I believe he was like, compared to today's dollars, he was like the wealthiest person like ever of all time.
Yeah,
So I just want to see like doing business is hiring and managing, right? It's the same thing. It's all around, but it's the mindset that comes with it. So I just want to see like how he thinks, how he operates. You know, how do you decide if somebody's good or bad? How do you decide when to, you know, acquire that new asset? Like just the thought process behind it, I think would be intriguing.
very good answer. That's the first person that said Rockefeller. What was the time you had, and last but not least, question four, what was the time you had self-limiting beliefs and what did you do to overcome them?
We'll take this back to social media. So I had like a small brand on Instagram at the time, from posting, and then TikTok came around like 3-ish years ago. Made a post and I was like, no, this isn't it. And then my buddy a month later was like, you really got to look at the TikTok. Downloaded it again, made another post. I was like, nah, forget it. A month later, he was like, bro, my business tripled. You have to get on TikTok. I was like, all right, I'm going to get on TikTok. So I got on TikTok And it was one of the first videos I did it was like how I became a millionaire. And it was one of those things where you like, point on beat and words pop up. It was like how
Yeah,
I became.
I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I was like bought a house at 20, flipped the house at 22, made 100,000 and bought 10 rental properties. I'm a millionaire, right? And that was the video. So the context of the video is how I became a millionaire. Remember that. So I posted it, put the phone down. I looked at it. It was like 100,000 views. I was like, yo, this is going crazy. Put it down. Looked at it again, $200,000 views. I was with my boy. I was like, yo, like this is crazy. So I clicked the comment section to look at what people are saying. And the comments that get the most engagement are at the top, which means the people that like the comments the most are the comments that are at the top. So I open up the comments section. Remember the context of the video, how I became a millionaire. First line, you sold your hair. I was like, this hurt my heart.
Yeah.
Second line, but you have no hairline. Third line, but you're bald. Three of the most engaged comments were all hating on me. In social media, that's why most people don't post, is because of the hate and the fear of ridicule and the fear of screwing up. And like it hurt my heart. Like now I don't care because like I've heard it a zillion times, but at the time, like it was new to me. I was like, damn, like I don't got a hairline. And I looked at it.
You're like, this video went viral for all the wrong reasons.
Like 100%. And I was like, damn, there's two options. You can let it hold you back. Or I sat there and I was like, man, fuck these motherfuckers.
Exactly.
Like, they're not doing shit for me. They're not paying none of my bills, nothing. They're actually giving me more engagement to get in front of more people. So I like the hate. So let's do another video. And like, that's how you got to think in life. Like people are always going to try to bring you down. But I promise you, when you get that pushback, that means you're going in the right direction.
And that's actually a great example. And the funny part is, and I think that like what people need to realize is the people that were talking shit to you probably ain't doing shit with their life, right? Because I've never it is rare for a happy, successful person to be, talking shit or being negative for some random ass reason on social media. Like it's usually people that are unhappy and not doing shit with your life. So it's like at the end of the day, like you really want that type of person to be impacting, whether you're posting or not.
Agreed. 100%. The hate's everywhere. You got to get past that.
Exactly. All right, Austin. Well, I greatly appreciate you hopping on. Great story. Shared some and dropped some gems. Let everyone know if they're trying to get in touch with you, where they can reach you at, and what you'd be able to help them with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This was a blast. I appreciate the opportunity. It's at Austin Rutherford on all the social media channels. I DM people on Instagram, so if you want to connect, shoot me a DM on Instagram. And if you want any help, building your real estate business, your rental portfolio, we help people do that all the time. So shoot me a DM, and we'd love to connect.
All right. Thanks again, my man. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks everyone for listening to number 7 of the episode 7 of the Fuck It podcast. Please like, subscribe, and share. Would be greatly appreciated. All right, that's all. All right, man. I greatly appreciate it. And you hopping on. Like, definitely was great share.
Absolutely, man. Let me know when it goes live, and I'll post it on Instagram and everything.
All right, cool. Yeah, as soon as it's like edited and shit, I'll send it over. And I'm gonna hit you up though. Like, we'll talk more about the industrial stuff, just because like I'm marketing nationally, like for in like the industrial space, so like self storage, warehouses, flex space, industrial land.
I love it. Are you taking them down or wholesaling them, or a little bit of both?
So I'll tell you the bigger picture with like my plan, right? So I'm a sales and marketing person, right? Like I can sell and market. I can't manage shit. So like I kind of started wholesaling them, and I get like minimal equity with the deals, right? So my objective is I'm building relationships with the operators. 2 of them, like already, I have like really good relationships with, and they will now manage assets for me.
Nice.
So the bigger picture, and I'm actually like literally dropping like a course within the next couple of weeks about like wholesaling on steroids, how to do this shit. But I'm going to create deal flow with the course. The people I wholesale them to, like I'm building the relationships. I want to prove that they are good operators. Once they prove they're good operators, I'll give them 10% for managing the asset and then the monthly management fee, 5% equity to anyone that brings a deal. And I'm just going to really focus on like capital raising, and then I can chop 85%, 90% of the asset up with people I get like, that I raise the capital from.
I love it, man. I think that's beautiful.
It took me a while to figure this shit all out, but I finally got what I'm supposed to be doing.
No, man. I mean, it's you have all the pieces, like the deal flow, the community, and start raising the money. It's golden. I love it.
Yeah. No, so that's kind of what I'm super like focused on. So no, I'll definitely be able to help you with some deal flow. So I'll hit you up. I'll send you a message. I think I still got your cell number, but let's definitely hop on a call. Let me know what you're like looking for, where you're looking, and I could probably get you some stuff.
Yeah, no, anything, ideally Columbus, Ohio, but anything in Ohio. But we'll connect on it.
All right, cool. Pleasure. And again, I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, bro.
See ya.